From a highly secure network of top secret locations across North America, this is the Spurs Insider, end of the streak edition. I'm Mike Finger, joined as always by Express News Spurs beat writers Tom Orsborn and Jeff McDonald. We're coming at you in March. That means that the perfect month of February is over. The Spurs went 11-0 during the month of February. That finally came to an end at Madison Square Garden in New York on Sunday. But they're ready to start a new streak. Jeff, how are you feeling at the end of this rodeo trip? We're into the final day. A new chapter of the Spurs season. Where are you mentally now, Jeff McDonald?
Much like the local Cagers, I'm ready to go home.
Yep.
But one more game, then we can go home.
We are recording this on the day that the local Cagers take on the Philadelphia 76ers here in the city of brotherly love. You might not be able to listen to this until after that game is concluded. But as a whole, Tom, it was quite a month for the San Antonio Spurs. It included all-star festivities. It included a long, kind of segmented rodeo trip which became a bunch of small trips. Included a couple games in Austin. We are at the three-quarter pole of the NBA season, and the Spurs are kind of entrenched in second place. But what's the status report of the Spurs at the three-quarter pole, Tom?
Well, I went into that trip or the winning streak. I was a little skeptical because they were beating teams that were banged up, hurt, some subpar teams like the Mavericks. But hey, I was there, like I said last week. They beat Detroit. That was a big win. Beat Toronto. That was a good win also. And then kind of, the Knicks kind of chewed them up. You guys were there for that. How did they handle that? Just this temporary.
It's hard to get worked up about it, Tom. It's hard to get. It's hard to, and that was it's a Sunday matinee in New York, which automatically has, I think the Knicks do pretty well historically in those when the road team is having to get up early in the city that doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was a tight game.
And I mean, they just got steamrolled, and a lot of the questions that you have about this team moving forward in terms of can they handle physicality, can they win when their role guys aren't hitting three-pointers, can they kind of hold up to the pressure against a team that knows what it's doing? They didn't provide good answers for any of those questions against the Knicks, but also they'd won 11 games in a row and were at their very end of a month-long road trip, and it's hard to be too upset or to consider it too indicting of their abilities when they'd gone so long winning those type of games. So this isn't going to boost the Spurs Insider listenership numbers, but it's just hard to get worked up about the end of that the end of that winning streak because it's regression to the mean at some point, and now they can start a new streak, Jeff.
Yeah, the Knicks are just a bad matchup for the Spurs. I mean, one of those teams that can put size everywhere on you. Like, not a lot of teams can match. Sometimes the Spurs have the advantage with size in the backcourt and Steph Castle and guys like that, but the Knicks can overwhelm you with size. Any team that can play like an actual four-man against you and still be able to spread the floor is going to that's just going to be a tougher matchup for the Spurs, who don't really have that kind of four-man. So, I guess if you look on the bright side, the only way that becomes an issue in the playoffs is if the Spurs and Knicks meet in the finals, and then you're doing pretty good if you're the Spurs. But a lot of it is matchup dependent, and a lot of their struggles with the Knicks, both in the NBA Cup and on this road trip. And the Spurs did win a game against them in San Antonio this year, but that one was tough. That took 11 Julian Champagnie 3-pointers to pull off. A lot of that can be traced to the Knicks are built in a way that exposes some of the Spurs' weaknesses. And that won't happen against every team. That won't even happen against every good team. But specifically in that matchup, the Knicks have some things that they can exploit, and they did.
Spurs have been getting away with playing Julian Champagnie basically at power forward. And he's done a really admirable job. Easy for me to say, admirable job of doing it. Rebounding his defense, he defends a variety of players. When he's hitting his shots, the Spurs do pretty well. Same with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, a lot of those role guys. Um, when those guys aren't hitting, they have a little less margin for error. But I think that's true of a lot of teams around the league. Nobody's perfect. Oklahoma City, I think you guys would agree, still the class of the West, still the odds-on favorites. But a question that a lot of people are asking these days, now that this winning streak has come to an end and teams are honing in on the stretch run here in the last 6 weeks of the season, is have the expectations of this Spurs team in the postseason changed after the last month they've had? Or do you still think this is a team that is going to have to take its lumps in the postseason at some time? Are they a legitimate contender in the Western Conference, Jeff?
That's a question we've been kind of debating on this little podcast show for months now, right? Like, I'll reiterate what I said last week. This team's season probably ends somewhere in the playoffs when they run into a team that knows what the playoffs are all about. The Spurs, it looks like they're going to be at, let's just, for argument's sake, say they end up with that 2 seed. They're probably going to play someone in the first round that they can handle. But then you get to the second round and you get some of these teams that are a little better, but also have that playoff experience. And it's not just, we've said it before, the intensity goes up, the level of preparation you need goes up. Each game takes on a different personality in a playoff series. There's levels of adjustments that have to be made. I did think Mitch Johnson was kind of asked that question early on this road trip, and I thought his answer was, or the start of his answer was kind of funny to me too, because he said the coach hasn't been there before either,
right?
Talking about himself. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things this team will have to prove when it gets in a playoff series. And I'm still going to stick with, at some point in those Western Conference playoffs, they're going to run into someone who might not be a more talented team than them, but has the talent to hang and can also impose that playoff experience on the Spurs and get by them. And I know people will say, well, Victor Wembanyama's been in big games before. He was in the Olympics, for God's sake. Or Steph Castle played, for an NCAA Final Four championship, won it. Like they've been in big games before. But it's different when you have to go through a series as opposed to a tournament type situation. It's the things that go into winning a 7-game series are the things you can only learn by being there. And I'm still going to stand by my prediction that at some point they're going to run into a team that can exploit that. But as I also said last week, somebody's got to win the Western Conference. And if it's not Oklahoma City, then who is it? And the Spurs are definitely in that conversation. I still want to. I kind of have to see it to believe it. And if they want to surprise me, that's good for them.
I realize we're being repetitive here. We've had these same thoughts for a few weeks now, but it's kind of the beast that is the NBA season. That this is the time of year when teams start getting ready for the playoffs, trying to build towards something, and the conversation shifts into this, and it can be. I assume it can be really boring for people to hear the same takes every week, but it's just I think it's just one of those things that there's nothing that the Spurs could do, let's say this week in March, the next 3 weeks in March, that would resolve any of these questions, that would resolve the unknown as to what's going to happen when the Spurs, let's say, get into a series with the Rockets in the second round and just step back and dare Stephon Castle to shoot and not let him inside. And when Stephon Castle starts putting his head down and getting to the rim like he does over and over and over so well throughout the regular season, what's going to happen when he doesn't get the foul calls that officials tend to give in the regular season but don't whistle in the postseason? Those are just unanswerable questions on March the 3rd. And all we can do is speculate until then. And as the Spurs have said, Mitch Johnson, Victor Wembanyama on down the line, all they can do is just continue to try to handle the task at hand. That's what they've done so far. And I think that's worth kind of tipping your hat to, that they haven't gotten ahead of themselves. The vibes have been very good, Jeff, as you can attest to, Tom, as well. Everybody's covered a part of this road trip. Team really seems together, which happens when you're winning. And so until the playoffs come, why dwell too much about on what might go wrong, right?
We haven't been here for 7 straight Marches. Like it's been 7 straight March, where in March, you're kind of like, okay, let's get on with it part of the season. Like let's
Yeah.
just like, there's nothing. For fans and pundits such as ourselves. There's not a lot to talk about. You're in a kind of waiting, holding pattern, waiting to see what the matchup is and get the playoffs started. I think back to like last March, the March before that, and what the things we were talking about, and it was a lot of meaningless games, but development. We were probably already talking about the off season and who goes, who stays, who's making a case. Now we're just kind of in a hover mode, waiting for the playoffs to start.
Well, this podcast, Tom, I know the Spurs vowed never to do this, but in a way, the podcast skipped some steps, which is a cardinal sin in the pound the rock Spurs culture. You're not supposed to skip steps. But the way a team podcast is supposed to work is after the years of as Jeff said, spending March and April talking about the future. There's supposed to be a March and April where the team has taken a step forward, but there's still obvious holes and there's still struggles. And if the Spurs had taken a normal path to progress, we'd be spending this month talking about, well, how can they fix whatever is killing them here in February and March, and how can they overcome this losing streak that was bound to come at some point? The Spurs have been winning too much for us to analyze any of the flaws. The flaws haven't really presented themselves other than in random games against the Knicks at 1:00 on a Sunday afternoon. So we're skipping that step of the in between. We went from talking about a lottery team to talking about a championship contender, and I don't know. Is that a problem, Tom?
Well, yeah, but right now, I guess this time last year we might have been talking about the draft a lot. So it's a whole different animal. Yeah, and the aforementioned tough task at hand gets pretty tough coming up here. Detroit, that homestand starts with Detroit, the Clippers, Houston, and I'm skipping a step here, Mike. I know we like to do this at the end of the podcast, but
No, it's fine. What's interesting about that is the opponents are getting better, but you're playing at home, which is an advantage. So
Detroit, Clippers, Houston, Boston, Denver, Charlotte. That's a pretty tough road to hoe. So we'll find out some more things.
21-6 at home this year. Your local Cagers.
Yeah, me being the glass half empty person, it's just like, oh, you get to go home, but look at the teams you have to play against. Like I look at it that way, not like the it's getting tougher, but you get to go home. I'm like, you get to go home to that after this long road trip. You get to go home. Starts with a back-to-back against Detroit and the Clippers, and that's tough. that's a tough welcome home.
Here's the thing, since we're looking at a new way to look forward to the playoffs, the Spurs have kind of settled into that 2 spot, and I don't see it changing. They're 3 games at the time of this recording. They're 3 games behind the Thunder. Tom and Jeff have just explained why it's going to be tough to make another charge, even during the homestand, to overcome that against a really good Thunder team. They're 5 games ahead of the 3rd place Rockets, and it's going to take a big slump for them to slide behind the Rockets in the next 20 games. So I feel like that 2 is not a sure thing yet, but pretty settled. And that means you're looking at potential first round opponents in the 7th seed. And there are 3 top candidates for that. And I wanted to get you guys' opinion on these 3 matchups, what you like about them, what you might be interested in about them in terms of covering the playoffs. For the first time, the Express News has covered a first round playoff series in 7 years.
You really
You have your Phoenix. You have your Phoenix Suns. Yeah, Phoenix Suns, your Golden State Warriors, and then there's this one, the Los Angeles Clippers. What piques your interest about those 3 potential first-round opponents?
piques my interest.
I like them all. It's
You're
fun
thinking from a
matchups.
travel standpoint, Tom.
No.
This is
Fun.
a basketball
No,
podcast.
fun matchups. I like all of them. I like that last one a lot. Kawhi, that'd be great. Yeah, be fun to watch.
That would be something. Think back to
the Spurs have had trouble with Phoenix this year when Phoenix is at full strength. Like famously, Dylan Brooks is the guy in the league that gives Victor the most issues, it seems. Golden State, the two times the Spurs have played them with Steph Curry, he went nuclear in the Frost Bank Center, and that'd be a fun series. Like well, it'd be fun to watch. If you're the Spurs, I don't know if it's super fun to play a first round series against that guy, even if his team's not that great. The Clippers
it's hard to kill the king, man.
Yeah, and the Clippers are interesting from the Kawhi standpoint, and also they started like 6-21 or something like that. So they've been the hottest team in the league for a long time. To climb out of that, I think they're almost back to 500 now.
I'm glad you got to there, because this is my point, my idea in bringing it up, in that even though the Spurs are well positioned to enter the playoffs with home court advantage, number 2 seed in the West, each of those matchups, which the Spurs should be favored in, present some reasons to be like, oof. Like this, things aren't guaranteed against any of those. The Suns have provided a lot. I think the Spurs are overwhelming favorites against the Suns, but the Spurs have had some issues matching up, as Jeff said. And then you have Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard, and a Kawhi Leonard on a team that has been one of the better teams in the conference for the past 2 months. So, all of this is a way to say that even if the Spurs are well positioned for the playoffs, they are a team that's never been there before, and you lose one game. We've all covered these playoffs. It was a long time ago, but we've all covered these 7-game series before. And it's like one game, and oh my gosh, everything we thought about the series is wrong because of this one game. And then you have to adjust game to game, and we will see how they handle that. But lots of intrigue, lots of potential intrigue in the postseason this year, no matter who ends up coming to San Antonio.
I think the Spurs would win any of those series, but I think they would be tougher than people think.
I think that's a fair bit of analysis. Speaking of analysis, some of the think back to some of the stories you've written for the Express News this past week on this road trip, Jeff. I think you've covered Harrison Barnes, you've covered some Julian Champagny, you've covered some. We've had some De'Aaron Fox. What sticks out to you about somebody who's making a move, or is a particular interest perhaps to fans of the local Cagers?
I think that Champagne game in Brooklyn was fun. He's back in his old stomping grounds. He said he grew up 3 subway stops away from Barclays, and then to go. I just think that's a cool story. It's not the first time, he's played there or played well there, but he was telling me it's the first time he's come back. Like, it was special for him to come back just as any NBA player, as you can imagine. Back in the day, a couple years ago, when he's just somehow undrafted guy, cracked an NBA rotation, a roster, and gets to go back home as an NBA player. But he said this year to go back on a team that, not only is he an NBA player, he's on one of the best teams in the league, and he's starting for them. And then he has a 26-point night, hits 6 threes, kind of spearheads that route over, the team he grew up 3 subway stops away from. That was a fun night for him, and I was happy for him.
Another fun encounter from this East Coast trip, and we'll put a bow on this. This might be the last time we're going to mention a long, long, long time Spurs Insider podcast subject, but we need a sense of finality here, and Jeff and I sort of got it in the New York Knicks home locker room around noon on Sunday, where we caught up with an old friend, Jeremy Sochan. And he seemed to be in good spirits, Jeff, even though he didn't play much in that game. He was happy to see some folks from San Antonio. You can run through for the listeners about his moving experience, but seems to be in a good frame of mind. And we might never talk about him after this. So put the bow on it.
They seem to like him there, even though he's not playing, or at least they're saying all the right things. But if you're in Jeremy Sochan's shoes and you're going to become a free agent this year, and now you're on your second team and you're still taking DNPs or near DNPs, like he got in that game against the Spurs for 2 minutes after it had gotten way out of hand in the fourth quarter. I think you have to be worried a little bit about what's the next step in your career. What is going to be out there for you? The Spurs tried to trade you twice, basically, last summer and at the deadline, and couldn't really seem to find anybody that wanted to give up much of anything for him. So it's got to be a little scary time for that guy. But like you said, he was very, very happy to see everyone in the Knicks locker room. There was a kind of a welcoming party of San Antonio media that made the trip to the other side of Madison Square Garden, where we hardly ever go, to the Knicks locker room to welcome him. And
we greeted him more warmly than Victor Wembanyama did when he slapped his hand away in the corner there during that. I think Victor was trying to hit a 3-pointer from the corner, and Jeremy reached out to keep Victor from coming into the bench, and Victor kind of waved him away and said, "It didn't matter if it was Jeremy. I don't want anybody touching me." That was fun.
Yeah, he kind of laughed about it later, but yeah, he was good. And Jeremy's, as you can imagine, in the middle of a season when you're going to have to relocate like that, it's not like he's able to fully move to New York. Like he said, he just moved into a hotel. I mean, a place. Like he'd been in a hotel for a while since coming here. Like his, you basically can't move all your belongings. So he just had a couple suitcases full of stuff he's been living out of. He said he left his dogs back in San Antonio, so he still has kind of a connection to San Antonio. But he's moved on. Life moves pretty fast, he said.
And it makes sense for him to keep that in San Antonio at least through the season, because he's still a restricted free agent this summer. Does that mean he stays in New York? We'll see. But I think that's when you make the move. And he did. Jeremy did send a shout out to Mike Finger's mom, which I thought was great. He confirmed my mother's reporting that he was in the HEB pharmacy 2 days after he was he signed with the Knicks, and said that she was a lovely woman and said some nice things. So that was very nice.
Say hello to your mother for me.
She said, "Say hello to your mother for me." That was great. That was great.
Jeremy strikes me as a Hotel Chelsea kind of guy.
That maybe.
You think he stayed down there?
Very bohemian.
Yeah.
I think he probably has found nicer digs than that, but who knows?
I'd stay there.
Another highlight of our days in New York is the Spurs had a practice at Nike headquarters, and for any of the people on BlueSky, we're not endorsing one social network over another, but we posted some photos there of the practice court there, and it's an illustration of why we call the team the local Cagers. Nike has the throwback basketball court behind the chain link fence, and that is why when Tom was coming up through the newspaper business, those many decades ago, the headline writers would call basketball teams the Cagers because they played in cages. And so that was fun to see Victor Wembanyama and the other local Cagers playing inside the cage. At John Thompson Court, Jeff, is that right? So Nike
his name's on it. The Georgetown coach, yeah.
Tom Orsborn's friend, John Thompson. I know Tom interviewed John Thompson back at the Final Four one year. Is that right?
Yeah, he was quite cranky during that interview session.
I know that's true. Who was not cranky that day at Nike was Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson, who was in demand. He was the coach of the hottest team in the league. And there's people, you're in the media capital of the world, and you've got all kinds of national reporters, outlets showing up to talk to you. And he patiently shook the hands and did the interviews and gave people the time they needed. And something I found interesting was when I asked him about it after some of the other guys had left, and he was talking, I said, is this something that you're embracing, about having all this attention on you and having to fulfill all these extra responsibilities when you're coaching a team like this? And he brought up a dinner, unsolicited. He brought this up, a dinner from 2021. He said it was right before the All-Star break that year. and he had just been on Pop's staff for, in terms of the SA staff, for I don't think more than a year or two. And someone at this dinner had pointed out that the Spurs were maybe the only team in the league, one of the only teams in the league that had zero representation going to All-Star weekend. No All-Stars, no three-point shooters, no slam dunkers, no coaches. And when you think of Pop and you think of the Spurs way, you think, oh, that stuff doesn't matter to them. But Mitch was saying that one thing that stuck out about that is that he said that was a really flat moment for me, a low moment for me, because he, from Pop on down, they all kind of thought it was a bummer. You know, that this organization that had Tim Duncan and David Robinson and back to George Gervin and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and won all these championships. They didn't have all-stars anymore. And it's like the NBA wasn't talking about them. And what Mitch said about that was, I never, ever want to go back to that again. And I don't know. I found that really interesting. And so he said, if now that there's attention and expectations and extra responsibilities of being a winning team, he'll take that 100 times out of 100. And I thought that was a really cool perspective to have. And just a telling sort of anecdote about how far this, just the mood around this franchise has changed in what 5 years. Back then, you didn't know if they were ever going to have an all-star again. And now they have one of the most popular all-stars in the world, and they're an NBA title contender, and everybody wants to talk to them. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
It was also interesting from a human nature standpoint, maybe. And I think reading your column, which you're referring to, Mike, that he also felt like, hey, I'm the new guy. Maybe some of this is my fault, you know.
No, that's thanks for bringing that up. I think that was
which
part
is
of what
totally
he was trying to say.
ridiculous, but it's human nature.
For sure. I don't have his quotes right in front of me, but it was something along the lines of he felt this responsibility and this obligation to continue. When he got the chance to be on the staff, he wanted to continue what Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford and the whole Spurs organization had established for so many years at a time, and then he gets there and they're not winning. They're not going to the playoffs. They're not sending anybody to the All-Star game. Like and Tom, you know the famous line from the beginning of so many mob, whether The Godfather or the Sopranos or Goodfellas, the people who feel like they came in at the end of something.
Yeah.
Like we feel with sports writing, we came in at the end of something and we missed the good stuff. And Mitch sort of felt that way about the Spurs. Did I miss the good stuff? And is it my fault that the good stuff isn't here anymore? And I think that's a very relatable feeling that I'm sure a lot of our listeners have had about whatever field you're in or about whatever you're excited about being part of. You feel like, oh, was it better before I got here? And I don't know, that was really interesting to hear Mitch put it that way. And he didn't use those words, but that was sort of the gist that I got from it. He was wondering if he'd missed out on the good stuff, and the good stuff is back.
We all need a Wemby in our lives.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like that idea of we're not winning anymore. It must be that G League assistant's fault.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But here's another thing that I think is worth noting to listeners of a Spurs podcast. In Tom and Jeff, you can both speak to this. In traveling around the league, there's a lot of respect from people on other teams covering the league around, for various outlets, for a lot of respect for what Mitch and his staff have done. Sean Sweeney, there is immense credit being given to those guys. It's not just that, oh, they have Wemby and they're winning. Like, this team is pretty well coached, and basketball people are starting to say so. And I've found that to be a worthwhile observation and picking up that. Go ahead.
Speaking of that, we were already sitting. Just to go back to how good February was, we're sitting here just today. Dylan Harper is the Rookie of the Month. Victor Wembanyama is the Defensive Player of the Month, and we don't know yet. It hasn't been announced, but I'm assuming by the time this
breaking news just in, Mitch Johnson.
That's what I was going to say. What great timing that was. that email just hit. I heard it beep, and yeah, Mitch Johnson is the coach of the month, which we assume when you go 11-0, you're pretty much a shoo-in. But like that's the Spurs are sweeping all those awards almost. That's how good February was for these guys, and that's the second coach of the month honor for Mitch Johnson. So they must be doing something right, and those are given out by the league. Like that's kind of being honored by your peers. That's not just reporters blowing smoke.
Right. Since you brought up Dylan Harper, who we haven't talked about at all this week, and probably not a lot over the course of his Rookie of the Month, what do people need to know about him and his progress? That was by far his best month as a Spur, I believe.
Yeah, it's gotta be, and yeah, he's growing into it. He's gonna have good games and bad games. He wasn't so great in his Madison Square Garden debut, but not many people on the Spurs were very great in that game. But overall, when you take all of February, I mean, he's growing leaps and bounds, and he kind of seems to have. I mean, we'll see where it goes from here, but it seems like he's kind of progressed past that part of the season where we thought he had hit a wall and was maybe having to push through it. It looks like he has pushed through it, and he's doing a lot of good things for this group. Kind of on he's not closing out every game, but they're entrusting him with a little more crunch time minutes, which is saying something when you also have De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle on your roster. So he's growing into some things, and I think he's going to be a huge part of what they do going down the stretch and into the playoffs. Like he's a huge X factor and all that.
It's ancient history when a game happens on a Tuesday night on this podcast, Tom, because that means it's like 7 days since we recorded the last one, and we give short shrift to the Tuesday and Wednesday night games sometimes. But a week ago, the game you covered in Toronto was one of Dylan Harper's finest hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was very aggressive in that game. But the thing I liked about it, Mike, was afterward they were terrible at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Him, Wemby, Fox there at the end just gagged, and Fox was terrible the whole game from the line. But the one guy who took that to heart and it really bothered him was Dylan. Yeah, he said that's the worst I've shot. It can't happen again. I'm really torn up about it. And Wemby and Mitch were like, yeah, it happens. Ebbs and flows of the leagues. Let's move on. But that was kind of a neat moment.
He went and grabbed his own rebound off one of those when he went to it, didn't he? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Wemby and Pirtle were fighting for it. He swooped in and grabbed it.
It's one of those Manu plays where you screw something up and then immediately redeem yourself.
Yeah,
and then I think that ended up, and he got that offensive rebound, and that ended up with Fox getting fouled, and like, okay, that's how they're going to seal that game.
And then Fox missed another free throw.
Missed them both, I think, too.
He's got that little Manu too, where Manu would have the quick self-flagellation, beat himself up for a second and then respond very quickly, and Dylan's got that too.
Everything's coming together. We will see how it goes. Do we want to look forward at the week ahead? We got a lot of home games coming up.
We'll know a lot more about him after this homestand, which I think I probably said we'll know a lot more about him after the rodeo road trip a while back. But after this homestand, the like we said, that strength of schedule is pretty tough for the next.
Well, they're kind of in the midst of that from beginning with that Detroit game.
Yeah,
on the 23rd. Yeah. This is just the midst of that really rough schedule.
If they push through that, they're gonna be sitting pretty.
Huh.
Let's take the Sixers out of the equation, because some people might not listen to this until after the Sixers game is concluded, and we don't want to look like idiots by giving you the wrong answer after the game's already happened. We can look like idiots for other reasons. 4 games ahead before heading into our next podcast recording, the Pistons, Clippers, Rockets, and Celtics all playing at the Frostbank Center over the next week. That is 4 games against teams that are looking to be in playoff position. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I'm sure Detroit and Boston, they feel they owe the Spurs one each. Detroit having lost to them. Boston lost a close one. So yeah, I'm looking at 2-2. That's a rough road there. 2-2. with the
Jeffrey.
wins coming over the Clippers and I guess Houston. But I still
Wow, being very specific, Tom Orsborn.
I am. I know you don't like that, Mike.
No, I love it. It's very, it makes yourself accountable, transparent. Who could be against transparency today's day and age?
Yeah, who could be against it?
Jefford, who do you have in these 4 games?
I'll be kind to give them a split as well.
That you're not going to be as transparent as Tom, obviously.
No, I'm very opaque.
And there you have it. Yeah, Jeff and I, all of us, it's the end of the trip. There's no grand finale here. There's no inspirational speech.
You just try to get done with it and get home.
That's enough for it. That's enough this week. Take care of each other and keep it real.